Tractate Chagigah discusses the laws of the special holiday offerings, called the Korban Chagigah, which was brought to the temple in Jerusalem on the 3 pilgrimage holidays, Passover, Shavuos, and Sukkot. The first chapter begins the discussion of these laws. The Mishnah says, everyone is obligated to appear in the temple courtyard on these holidays, besides for a deaf, mute, and insane person, a minor, a person of undetermined sex, a hermaphrodite, women, unfreed slaves, the lame, the blind, the infirm, the old, and someone who can't go by foot. The minor, which is exempt, is one who cannot ride on his father's shoulders to go up to the temple mount, according to Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says it's a child who can't hold his father's hand to go up the temple mount. Beis Shammai says the Ola Re'iyah, the offering of you appearing there, must be worth at least 2 silver ma'os, and the Shalmi Chagigah, the peace offering for the holiday, must be worth at least 1 silver ma'ah. Beis Hillel says the coin amounts are switched. The Gemara says, when it said all are obligated to do this, what exactly does this include? We bring a few suggestions, but we say it's even a person who's blind in one eye, or possibly even a half-slave, which is discussed. It also says the deaf-mute in question here is one who is not mentally competent, similar to an insane person or a minor. It's also someone who can't hear or speak. If you can do either, you're obligated to go. We bring sources, and this is further discussed. It brings some verses on this, and it says, in regards to the Hakel gathering obligation, that it'd make even an only deaf or an only mute individual be exempt based on the verse, so that they will hear and so that they will learn. But it brings an instance of 2 mutes who attended the study hall, and they were very capable learners, so actually it means so that they will teach, which a mute person can't really do. And it brings proofs for this interpretation. It also says, based on the verse, so that they will hear, that someone deaf in one ear is exempt from appearing in the temple courtyard by the holiday pilgrimages. Based on another verse, it also exempts someone who's lame in one foot. There are further points discussed. There are related topics mentioned, and it discusses what degree of insanity we're referring to. Some say it's a person who goes out alone at night, someone who lodges in a cemetery, and someone who tears his garment for no reason. Some say it's somebody who does all of these. Some say it's even someone who does one of them. This is further qualified. Some say it's someone who destroys everything he's given, and it's unresolved if that applies here. Women are exempt, as they're exempt from all time-bound positive commandments, unlike their unique obligation by the Hakel gathering. It also says how the verse implies that a person of undetermined sex, a tumtum, or a hermaphrodite, an androgynous, are exempt from this. The other exemptions are also qualified. It also says exempt from the Olas Re'iyah offering are the uncircumcised and the ritually impure. We bring sources, which are discussed, along with a brief thing on how the angel of death takes souls. There are other verses discussed, along with the remaining points. There are even further verses and incidents in regards to the importance of studying Torah, staying away from transgression, and similar. It also qualifies the argument about which minor is exempt from these obligations. It discusses a lame or blind minor who will be healed before adulthood, and it says that such a person would not be biblically obligated as an adult, so a minor with such a situation is not obligated rabbinically, which is a general rule. It also explains the dispute in regards to the worth of the offerings. Beis Shammai would say the Re'iyah is greater, as it's offered entirely to God, and there's more of this type by the Shavuos offering, while Beis Hillel would say the Chagigah offering is greater, as it was brought before Mount Sinai, and there are more of this type by the Prince offerings. Beis Hillel would argue with Beis Shammai, as he could say that the Chagigah offering is superior, as it has 2 consumptions on the altar and by people, and we can't compare the Re'iyah offering to Shavuos, as that's a communal offering, while the Re'iyah is an individual offering. Beis Shammai would argue saying that the Re'iyah was also brought before Mount Sinai, and it's not comparable to the Prince offerings, as those weren't done generationally. This is further discussed. This topic is argued on further for a bit, and there's further definition given to the practice of these offerings. New Mishnah. The Ola offering brought on the intermediate days of the holiday must come from unconsecrated property, but the Shalomim offering must come from Ma'aser Sheni tithes. The Chagigah offering brought on the first day of Passover, Beis Shammai says it must come from unconsecrated property. Beis Hillel says it can come from Ma'aser Sheni tithes. There is an obligation to rejoice on holidays, which meant to eat meat from offerings. Yisraelim, non-Kohanim, and Leviim can fulfill their obligation with voluntary vow offerings and from the animal tithe, while Kohanim can eat chatas and asham offerings, the firstborn offering, and parts of the shalomim offering. They cannot fulfill this obligation with bird or mincha flour offerings. The Gemara clarifies these points. It also speaks on the Chagigah offering brought on the 14th of Nisan by Passover can be purchased with Ma'aser Sheni funds, as it's not biblical. The other opinions are discussed and defined. There's more discussion on some related verses. New Mishnah. If a person has many household members who want to participate in the Chagigah offering, but few possessions, he should bring lots of Chagigah offerings and less Olas Re'iyah offerings. Someone with many possessions but few of such household members should bring lots of Olas offerings and less of the Chagigah Shlomim offerings. The minimum pricing amount specified earlier apply if you have both. The Gemara says, if he doesn't have possessions, he can use Ma'aser Sheni money and bring a large bull. There are further particular cases discussed. It gets into someone who has remaining sacrifices from a bunch which were designated, and he wants to bring them on the second day. It's permitted only if he specifically said that they would be offered on the first day, and it would also not be allowed if there was still time to bring them on the first day, but he just chose not to. New Mishnah. Someone who did not offer the Chagigah offering on the first days of the holiday of Sukkot, or any holiday, he can bring it on any other day throughout the holiday. If the holiday ended without bringing it, he can't do it any longer. As the verse says, a crooked thing cannot be made straightened. Some other examples of such a concept: someone who has a bastard child with someone he couldn't have relations with, which can't be repaired, unlike stealing, which can be repaid. Some say this refers to a Torah scholar who forsakes the Torah. The Gemara cites sources for these points, and they're discussed. This is all qualified further, and it speaks on the points of the importance of studying Torah. New Mishnah. The laws of being released from vows don't have scriptural source, and are taught from the oral tradition, as are the laws of Shabbos, the Chagigah offering, and Me'ilah, the prohibition against using consecrated objects. By those, they have a few verses referencing them, and from them there are hundreds of laws derived. Monetary laws, sacrificial service laws, purity laws, and laws of illicit relations have proper scriptural support and are fundamentals of Torah. The Gemara brings and discusses the verses which are these reference sources. It also lists the ones for the Chagigah and the Me'ilah concepts. The remaining points are further qualified. It also clarifies that all of these laws are fundamentals of Torah. And that's the end of chapter 1.